Hi, this is Kara Swisher, and I want to talk to you about my new podcast for the New York Times called Sway. If you want to know what people who hold power in our world are really all about, you need to hear how they answer the tough questions. And that is my specialty. And although it might get messy, as it always does, it's also going to be really fun. You can get Sway wherever you get your podcasts. New episodes are available Mondays and Thursdays.
Hey, Eagles fans, this is Mike Kaye from NJ Advanced Media. Welcome to the No Huddle Show podcast, where we discuss anything and everything Philadelphia Eagles. You can read our content on NJ.com/Eagles, bookmark that, and you can subscribe to our exclusive Eagles Insider text service, where we'll break news, give you insider observations, and provide in-depth analysis. Through Eagles Extra, you can send questions and comments directly to us, and we'll respond to your phone. With me today, as always, is my fellow Eagles beat reporter, Chris Franklin. Today, we're discussing the awful 37-19 Eagles loss to the Rams. We're going to break down what's wrong with Carson Wentz and what happened to the defense. Chris, are you still with me? Are you okay? What's going on?
You know how last week I said the loss was perplexing? I think the adjective I'm going to use this time is agonizing. That was a bad effort on by both the offense and the defense, and they find themselves in a pretty big hole now. It's not the way you want to see a season start out.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think the record sunk. Look, they're in shambles, and I think, from my perspective, things don't look like they're getting better. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't. Where do you go from here? I know they play the Bengals next week, and that should be a layup on paper. But after the last 2 weeks, I don't really know what to really say. Am I picking the Bengals next week? Are you picking the Bengals next week, Chris?
I'm not touching that because the Bengals wide receiver core scares me a little bit. And the last thing and Burrow looked okay on Thursday night, so I'm not touching. There's no gimmies now with the schedule on the Eagles, so it can go anywhere. I'm not touching that game with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like they've lost their wonderkin, cool demeanor. I mean, like, they're not. Look, this Eagles team had a swag about it in the summer, and they just have not really lived up to the hype at all. I think we both thought that they had a shot at winning the division or at least making the playoffs. Right now, I mean, I don't know how we can even talk about playoffs, because this team, if they're not finding urgency soon, they're going to end up having a better shot at the 7th overall pick in the draft than they are the 7th seed in the playoffs, even with that expanded playoff outlook. So, look, let's just get into this, Chris, because I could ramble on for hours about this game. This game was pathetic. The Eagles never had the lead. Even when they seemed like they were going to come back, the Rams had an immediate answer. The Rams offense absolutely outplayed the Eagles defense. Sean McVay outcoached Jim Schwartz. The offense picked up 449 total yards and scored on 6 series. What went wrong, Chris?
The main thing when you have to go against the Rams, the main thing you have to do is you have to stop the run to stop everything else that offense is capable of doing. And they didn't do that at all. You let a team run the ball 39 times and average 4.9 yards a carry. And the thing that you were worried about this Rams team doing, they pretty much did. They ran off tackle. They ran right up the gut. And the thing that you were really worried about was if they established that run, you start using the Sean McVay specials of running those end rounds and the counter screen. It set so much up and the play action pass, and it all came to fruition. And you saw so many missed tackles as the game went along. The Rams went ahead. They utilized the quick snaps. They used a quick count. They ran ahead and they ran a bunch of plays. And you saw so many times the Eagles player, you see so many guys shuffling in and out. Don't know whether if it was based on formation or they were just tired. But it was so how to say it was like they looked frustrated at time. I think I saw Malik Jackson at one point throw his helmet down on the ground because of frustration being taken out at one point. It just looked overall that this defense that looked pretty good against Washington could all of a sudden look like they had no answer whatsoever. And you mentioned it earlier, Jim Schwartz fully got out coached in this game. And if McVay is supposed to be one of the bright stars of this league when it comes to coaching, and you can see it once in a while, but to have 37 points put up on you, it is just unacceptable within the amount of talent that they have on that defense. I think there's something like $45 million of which is invested in that defensive line. And the fact you only gotten 2.5 sacks through 2 games out of that defensive line it begs to question what's going on up there. It really does.
Yeah, I mean, not to cut you off, but like the defensive tackle group alone is worth a mint, and none of them have been able to get to the quarterback. It's not happening. They're also not stopping the run. I think what's frustrating if you're Jim Schwartz is how this was all done. So not only did they beat you on the ground for 191 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns, you've now given up 227 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns in just 2 games. This was a strength of the Eagles defense throughout the first 4 years of the Doug Peterson, Jim Schwartz era. They stopped the run. They forced you to pass. And even though their guys couldn't really get to the passer, you were able to do some stuff creatively where you made a team one-dimensional. Then they made Jared Goff looked like Joe Montana out there. He started off, I believe it was like 12 of 12 for 146 yards, finished the game 20 of 27 for 267 yards and 3 touchdowns. All 3 touchdowns went to tight end Tyler Higbee, who made Nathan Gary look like a JV replacement player, frankly. This linebacker, we talked about the linebacker group for the Rams being the weakness for Los Angeles's defense. Well, guess what? The Eagles' weakness is very similar, and Sean McVay found a way to take advantage of it. I mean, this is one of those ones where people say burn the tape, but I think Fire would be afraid of this tape. That's how bad it is. I mean, this was pathetic, and I'm typically a pretty big Jim Schwartz advocate. I think he's completely underrated as a play caller. I think he's completely underrated as a play schemer and in-game adjuster. And they just wreck this dude. And his group. So, do you have any other thoughts on the defense?
Well, I think it goes back that linebacker core. There's undersized to begin with. So when you don't have that defensive line doing the job they're supposed to be doing and taking on those blocks to let the linebackers flow to play and shuffle and scrape to see those gaps, you're going to get results like this. And you have these teams like you'll have granted San Fran has a couple of injuries and we're going to see what they have to do. You have Mark Ingram in the Ravens. You have Ezekiel Elliott coming down to, if they don't fix this quick, it might be those linebackers, that defense might be tired because they'll be on the field so long.
Yeah, I mean, look, this doesn't get any easier. We've tried to stress this. I stressed it in week 1. It's not going to get easier. Washington was dominated by Arizona all this afternoon, and Washington was the team that came back and beat the Eagles in week 1. There are no gimmies, as you said earlier, and I think it all kind of, look, the defense was terrible today, but this game was winnable in a lot of moments, and quarterback Carson Wentz did not look good today. He's been frankly inadequate and immobile. And, as our, esteemed boss man brought up to us via email, Kevin Whitmer, look, Carson looks like a shell of himself, at least as an athlete, since he tore his ACL, MCL, I think it was the LCL, against the Rams in 2017. He's just not as mobile. He's not as quick to be dynamic. And, today they rolled him out of the pocket pretty well. Design wise, but he still looked pretty immobile in the pocket. I wasn't really impressed by him. I think you had maybe a semi more optimistic look at him in the pocket, but just overall, he just seems skittish out there. He seems indecisive, inaccurate, and mistake prone. And for the first time in his career, he's thrown 2 interceptions in back-to-back games. Also, by the way, coming into this game, he had the league longest streak of throwing a touchdown pass, that was broken today. I think he went 20 straight games with a touchdown pass. Now he's, back in the back of the line. His passer rating is only 64.4. He's only completed 58.8% of his passes. Like, we talk about like him wanting to be elite. He doesn't even look like a franchise quarterback right now. Where are you coming from with this whole breakdown situation?
Well, I think the main thing we talked about the mobility, and it's not the only year that he really wasn't really that mobile ran was 2018 when he was coming back from that ACL thing, the ACL injury. And he ran, the weird thing was in 2019, he ran the ball the same amount of times as he did in the Super Bowl year in 2017. And he was able to, and he's actually broke more tackles last year, which is weird. I don't know what's going on with him. You don't see the read option. You don't see that used anymore. I know they're probably using it to save him so he won't get hurt, but that used to be a staple of this offense, and they don't even utilize it. I don't know if it's something with his throw. It seems like we're talking about this every year, but when it comes to his throwing mechanics, he's overthrowing these guys. He even I don't know if he's not following through, getting on top of the ball to make sure it gets down, but that ball is sailing across the middle. He almost got Dallas Goedert. He almost bruised or injured his ribs at one point when they were going down in the red zone early in the first quarter. I like to call them medicine balls. He threw a ball so high that all of a sudden he exposed Goddard's ribs, and the Rams basically almost got two-piece by two Rams that back there. He can't keep putting in this team in bad positions with the turnovers via interceptions, via fumbles. I really don't know what's going on with him. You look at the tape from 2017. Last night before this game, the 2017 Eagles-Rams game was on, and you saw this guy who was confident. You saw this guy who knew what was going to get the ball out quickly. It was short target routes. He knew where he was going decisive. Now he's surveying the field so much. You know what is scary? He's starting to remind me of, and I don't know if he's trying to prove something to everybody else. I don't know what it is. He's starting to look like McNabb after the 2004 season. He's staying in the pocket a little bit more. He's not rolling out. I don't know what's going on with him.
And here's the thing too, and you and I talked about this as well, kind of after the game, just musing back and forth, but he didn't target anybody downfield. This was an offense that was supposed to be much more dynamic, have much more speed. And, as an objective observer, it's like weird to be sold all of this speed, game-breaking speed, all this creative things you can do with Deshaun Jackson and Jalen Reagor. Well, guess what? The longest pass of this game went for 25 yards to Deshaun Jackson, and he was just wide open in the corner. Didn't really do much. I mean, Wentz isn't looking down the field. I mean, look, he missed Dallas Goedert on probably a touchdown that ended up turning into a field goal. He missed Deshaun Jackson at least twice down the field. He was wide open. I like the way they used Jalen Reagor with some pre-snap motion, getting him away from Jalen Ramsey. But you look at this, Greg Ward had one catch for 5 yards. That's your slot receiver. Both Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert averaged under 8.5 yards per catch, and they caught nine combined passes. I thought the running backs were utilized pretty well in the passing game. But then you talk about J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, and so that brings us to Carson Wentz's awful interception. So he targeted J.J. Arcega-Whiteside on what looked like a post route. He got a step on the corner, but then there was a free safety right near him, and then the corner just jumped his route for the interception. The ball just shouldn't have been thrown there. Carson even admitted after the game. As you said, he was inaccurate. He was throwing high. He was throwing off. He was throwing behind. Listen, Jalen Hurts was active today, and they used him in 2 plays that I thought were really, really interesting. I'm not saying replace Carson Wentz with Jalen Hurts, but that obviously doesn't limit the pressure behind Carson Wentz when you have a guy like Jalen Hurts active. What if Carson Wentz bombs in a first half down in a couple of games and they're 0-4 or they're 1-3? That could be an issue. And I think fans would call for it. I think he would have been booed out of the building today if there were fans at the Link. It's just he doesn't see, I think the biggest thing with quarterbacks, and you know this from playing, when you're not part of the solution, you're definitely part of the problem. And that seems to be what Carson Wentz is right now. Do you agree?
I think he is. I'll put this. I'll give the Rams credit. I won't I'll give the Rams credit on this part. They went a lot of cover 3. They made sure that a lot of cover 3 and deep cover 2 as well too, to make sure that Jackson, Rager didn't beat them down the field. And early on, it was okay with him checking down to Sanders and Scott and finding those little and even Ertz and Goddard at times, finding those little 5 to 10 yard routes, hitches, outs, what have you, and just taking what the Rams defense was giving you. It was okay, but he played right into what they were doing. He went on and tried to force that ball into Whiteside. He should have just thrown that ball out the back of the end zone. That should have just happened. The thing is, when you start to feel that all that pressure was going on, you've had a bad game that week 1. You're not having the most optimal start going right too. You find yourself down that one too. You start trying to force things. You're just not becoming the quarterback that you believe. He's not a game manager. He's more than a game manager. But there's times when you're a starting quarterback, you just got to become that guy. And then once in a while with his legs, try to go ahead and become more than that. I don't know what's in his head right now. I think he has to go ahead. They have to almost kiss it, keep it simple, stupid with him. I think right now, just in order to get the offense back and just keep trying to go ahead and get in a better flow of things. I think they did a way better job establishing a run. I think once they do that, like the Rams did, you can start running those guys down deep downfield, because more teams are going to have to respect the run and cheat a safety up, or start even selling out on the blitz to go ahead and try to go deep and stop the run. So it's a combination of not just Wentz. I won't put this loss solely on him. He's got 70-80% of this loss, but it's a culmination of this offense going together. It's just so many issues right now that has to be fixed. They have yet to play a complete game. It has to be done. They had to find some way to fix this.
I think what's more frustrating, again, as an objective outside observer, is that you can't pin this on the offensive line. They played very, very well. Aaron Donald was held without a sack for the 4th straight time against the Eagles. He's never had a sack against this franchise. And that was against like Nate Herbig and Isaac Seumalo and Matt Pryor, who replaced Seumalo. I thought the running game was pretty strong. Miles Sanders fumbled in the 3rd play of the game, but Doug didn't move away from the run. And, we killed him last week for kind of forcing the pass, but he really ran the ball. They ran the ball 26 times. 2 of those were Carson Wentz keepers. 1 went for a touch, but they scored twice on the ground. Miles Sanders, after that early hiccup, had 95 yards on 20 carries and a touchdown, a 4.8 yard average, which is pretty strong. Same with Boston Scott. He had 4 carries for 19 yards. We saw Corey Clement in there in limited snaps. Jason Huntley was inactive. I brought up Jalen Hurts earlier. There was a cool look that they did where Miles Sanders and Jalen Hurts, were in the backfield. Hurts lined up to the right. Sanders lined up to the left. Carson Wentz dropped back, faked a screen pass to Sanders, and then faked a screen pass to Hurts, and then hit Dallas Goedert wide open over the middle. I think Jalen Hurts is going to be one of those guys where teams are going to have to study him. Teams are going to have to anticipate him. I mean, look, they haven't even revealed what he can really do here. They just put him out there. And he clearly grabbed the defense's attention, at least on that first play. Later on, they had him out wide left at the 3-yard line, and ended up just being a design run for Sanders. But I think he brings another element to this offense, especially an offense that's looking for answers. What says you?
I think that Hurts, that package that they have for him, there's a lot you can do with him. It makes it pretty exciting of all the different combinations. I could just imagine right now, Marty Morningwig, Rich Scangarnell, Alan Peterson, Press Taylor, all those guys just messing around on a whiteboard, seeing what you can do with them. I think the key that a lot of the players did on those package plays, they sold the figs very well. A lot of times you see when it comes to those little those wildcat plays, you just know, okay, well, let me just stand out here and I'm not getting the ball. That would too. They sold the fakes really well. So I think that brings a little bit of a bright spot in a pretty dismal game itself. But when it comes to what this offense can do with Hurts, when it comes to those red zone package, there's so many things. The sky's the limit. I mean, we haven't even seen him line up to run a read option. You can go ahead and run the ball with him this out. Just imagine a double pass. There's so many things that you see. I'm actually glad they got it on tape now. So now, Cincinnati's going to look at it. San Fran's going to look at it, and it's going to take time away from their regular game planning that had to devote to this.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is there's like this hint of mystery about him, right? Because you didn't get to see him catch the ball. You didn't get to see him run the ball. You don't really know what he looks like as an NFL player. He just stood out there. And so I think you just have to be prepared. You have to be wise to it. And they used him not only just like within the 5-yard line, which is what we kind of expected his role to be, but they were out like right at the tip of the red zone. And I think that's kind of where they should utilize him. I mean, in between the 20s isn't necessarily probably where you want him to be if you really trust your quarterback. But like, I just, they need to do something. I like what I saw from the running game. I think that's a good building block moving forward, I guess, if you had to take one positive away from this whole situation. But, I want to say this outright. There's absolutely no reason why Nate Sudfeld should be active over Jalen Hurts moving forward. Like, that just to me just seems like a waste. Nate Sudfeld's thrown 25 career passes and affected regular games that matter significantly less than Jalen Hurts, in my opinion. So that's where I stand. Where are you at with that?
I think from time to time, I think you will have to activate him just because he gives you that. He's a vet.
Oh, I'm not saying don't activate him.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not saying don't activate him. I'm saying there's no reason to have him activated over Hurts. If you're going to keep both active, cool. Okay. But like, to me, I think Jalen Hurts gives you something in the offense, or at least a presence. Like, that's the thing. His presence alone is intriguing. It's captivating because he is such a great athlete. He can run, he can catch, he can pass. He's like the that, like, you remember that French fry machine in the 80s? It cuts, it chops, it dices, it does everything in one easy thing. Like, that's
Julia
what
Fries.
Right. That's what Jalen Hurts can be for this. I mean, look, he's only going to get he's Slash. Right, exactly. You get a limited amount of touches with him. Like, let's say he's going to package the 6 plays per game. If he can produce or look, that's the thing. It's not even just him touching the ball that's important. It's taking away attention from other playmakers. And that's what he did on that split backfield play where he freed up Dallas Goedert because you had to pay attention to whatever this shiny object was running to the right side. That's what Jalen Hurts is. He's a shiny object. You have to pay attention to him. Because inevitably what they could end up doing is doing some trick passes too with him, because remember, he can throw the ball. He's capable of doing that. And I think that makes him a kind of scary feature of the offense, especially when, frankly, Greg Ward has not been that great. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, when targeted, has been an absolute disaster. John Hightower, I forgot he even existed in this game. Deshaun Jackson wasn't targeted for the entire first half, basically. And look, Jalen Reagor looked good, but, I mean, he's just part of the puzzle at this point. He's not a superstar yet. So you've got to really kind of figure this out. But Carson Wentz needs to make better decisions. He needs to get rid of the ball like he did in the first half. I thought the first half he played well-ish. Yeah. I thought he was fine. I think fine's the right word. But, like, it's like the second half when the game really matters for him. The past 2 weeks, he's imploded. And he plays this hero ball. He plays this, wild, wild west type game. But I don't know if he's capable of doing that anymore. I don't know if he is the same type of players. You can't take as many chances when you have speedsters because, look.
Hi, this is Kara Swisher, and I want to talk to you about my new podcast for the New York Times called Sway. If you want to know what people who hold power in our world are really all about, you need to hear how they answer the tough questions. And that is my specialty. And although it might get messy, as it always does, it's also going to be really fun. You can get Sway wherever you get your podcasts. New episodes are available Mondays and Thursdays.
Game-breaking speed's important, but if they're not getting open, you're kind of done. And I think for him, I think it's a mixture between, well, you want to sell the deep, you want to go for the deep passes, you want to take advantage of that speed, but you also don't want to be, handicapped to that of just focusing on the speed. And I think he's just kind of trying to figure out and feel out one, the play calling, but also his protection. I thought he looked a lot more comfortable in this game with Lane Johnson on his right side. That said, it didn't really show in the results. And I think that that's kind of even more worrisome. I mean, Chris, as a quarterback, how can you feel the pocket and kind of know, like, you're getting plenty of time? He got plenty of time on that interception to J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. I still don't understand why he forced it there.
I don't know if it's one of those things. Well, I looked quickly at some of the plays at St. House, and saw when it came to a couple of the other routes, and they were covered too. So it goes back to, why is he not stepping up in the pocket? Why is he not taking off with his legs? I saw a little quick lane that was available. Now, does he have the same speed that he had when he was a rookie? Probably not, because after you get a couple of hits over time and after a few years, you slow down a little bit. But I'm sitting here.
You know all about that.
Oh yeah, the two screws and the plate in my ankle. Oh, it definitely does. It definitely does on that one. But you start to. I wonder if he's really like. I think it's looking at it. It may be actually a combination of a couple of things. I wonder if he's not feeling comfortable with the window that these receivers are getting to try to force things, and B, and he starts like basically get open, and B, if he's trying to force things, he keeps looking at the scoreboard, and in the back of your mind, you keep thinking like, hey, you know what? I'm supposed to be this franchise guy. I got the C on my jersey. I'm supposed to be a leader. I'm supposed to will us. I'm supposed to be an elite quarterback. I have to will us back to victory. So he's trying to take these chances. And the problem is these chances are not really high. If you're going to take a risk, you're going to go ahead. You have to look at, see what you have there. And these chances he's taking are not smart to begin with. I mean, hell, the 4th and 2 play down in the fourth quarter, he threw to 4 guys surrounding Goddard. Those aren't the type of risk you go. If you have somebody one-on-one on the outside, okay, I can see that. But if you have a safety bracketing your tight end with a corner of that, I'm not looking that way. He has to go ahead. If he's going to take chances, he has to pick them a lot better than what he's doing right now. It's frustrating.
He's always been a tight window thrower. He's not a lob guy like Nick Foles is. And I hate to bring back that comparison, but like,
you said the F
they're
word.
Two different players. Yeah, the other F word. The holy F, I guess you could say. But, as we get into this, and Thursday, obviously, we'll preview the Bengals game. We'll pick it up from an optimism standpoint if we possibly can. We'll try to find the optimism, I guess. But he said something during the postgame press conference that like absolutely drove me wild. He said, "The sky isn't falling. We aren't panicking." What? You're 0-2. You're 0-2. At what point do you then panic? When you're 0-3 and lose to the Bengals? When you're 0-4 and then headed to Pittsburgh? Like, what are you talking about? There's no problem with panicking. Panicking means you have to show a sense of urgency. And I think Eagles fans are very frustrated because it does seem a little listless and lackadaisical, the offensive effort over the last 2 weeks, especially from Wentz. Wentz is kind of just like, go with the motions. Well, guess what, kid? They haven't been 0-2 under Doug Peterson. They just haven't. They haven't been 0-1 under Doug Peterson. So, you can talk about all this magical underdog stuff and them coming back from being down 5-7 to being 9-7 and winning the division. Guess what? This is a different roster. They've eroded to the point where 18 players have 2 or fewer years of experience. You're not leaning on guys like Malcolm Jenkins. You're not leaning on guys like Chris Long. You're not leaning on guys like, Corey Graham and veterans who know what it takes to bounce back. This is a much younger team. And, they named 8 captains. I don't know how the 8 captains don't look themselves in the mirror and say, hey, we own this one. And then hold their other younger teammates accountable. I mean, you've been in locker rooms. How do they handle that? What needs to be said here?
Well, here's the thing. I'd probably say publicly, everything is no need to panic. And you know what? I kind of agree. I don't think you have to panic, but you did say the right word. There has to be a sense of urgency. I think you could call it splitting hairs, but I think that's about the same thing. I think you can't look ahead and start thinking, oh my goodness, if we don't go ahead, if we start 0-4 and we don't move the ball ahead and Oh man, we can't do it. You have to sit there and you have to just focus on the one thing, which is the Bengals right now. And that's what a lot of coaches tell people right after. The coaches are going to say, we have to win. We have to win. Each game is 1-0, and you have to go ahead and make sure you look at each play. You have to win each play. And as boring and as mundane as that sounds, that's the way you kind of have to approach it, even when it comes up going against the Bengals, because there have been a number of teams that have came back 0-2 and find a way through it. Doug Peterson did it when he was offensive coordinator in 2014 with the Kansas City Chiefs. Granted, they didn't make the playoffs, but they wound up being 9-7. So there's a lot of things. Oh, Andy Reid. I'm sorry. Remember this back 2003. The Eagles, I think, beginning 0-3. I think it was. No, definitely was 0-2. Maybe 0-3. They ran up running off 12-4. This team's not winning 12 games with the schedule they have. But the thing they have to do is you have to go ahead, control. They have to play control. They can't play like the season's about to end if they don't win against the Bengals. They have to go ahead and fit one by one, look at each play and just try to beat them on each play. That's the best thing you can do. And that's what the coaches are going to tell them throughout this week. And we'll probably hear it throughout this week as well, too, for each player we talk to.
But here's the thing. It's okay to say, hey, look, this is a must-win for them. You can't go down 0-3. I get it. You got to win one by one, and that's cool, and that's a cool adage. But like when you have guys like Rodney McLeod saying, they're better than what their record is. No, they're not. This looks like a bad team that's going to get worse. I mean, that's just is what it is. I don't know how you could see the last few games and say, wow, I bet they'll pick this one up. Like you're not, this isn't the 1930s. Well, gee, golly, guys, I think they've faced some adversity and they're going to, well, gee, golly, we're going to get back. I mean, like, it's just not like the thing. This is the NFL in 2020. There's so many of these high-powered teams, and look, the disparaging like records of 2-0 to 0-2 right now are ridiculous. And look, they haven't even suffered injuries yet. Everybody talks about their underdog mentality and how they've been through stuff like this before. They had one guy who was an inactive as an injured player. Cool, they've lost Deshaun Hall and Brandon Brooks, but really, when you look at this, they were almost fully ready to go, and they did not look like a talented team. Fletcher Cox, Carson Wentz, a lot of these guys who were paid a lot of money did not play well today, and they have not played well in the first two games. So the Eagles have a lot of, they've got a lot of reflecting to do. As Doug Peterson says, look in the mirror. Well, they're going to be staring at a lot of plexiglass over the next couple of days because this is not a good team. I don't know how they finish with the 500 record if they don't beat the Bengals. And really, right now, you could probably win the division at 8-8. The Cowboys won on a miracle. Well, I shouldn't say a miracle. I think the Atlanta Falcons hands team might made the biggest blunder of an onside kick recovery that I've ever seen in my life. But Chris, give me your final thoughts so we can kind of, refresh and recharge and start anew starting Monday.
I think that it's going to be a long night at the NovaCare Complex for Doug Peterson and Jim Schwartz. And dare I say, I think it might be time they actually, blitz something that hasn't been done, because it's this defensive line has to figure it out soon. Because if not, it's a domino effect, and that defense is going to get hammered. So they better find a way to fix the stuff on defense, and on offense, they better find a way for every level, every position group on that offense to find a way to actually have a complete game. And Carson Wentz really needs to step up and actually go ahead, be that franchise quarterback that the team believes he is. So it is agonizing. I'll go back to that one. Agonizing.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the bright sides to take out of this is, look, the linebackers can't cover, so you might as well blitz them. You know what I mean? Like I think that's maybe the benefit here. But also, I think the running game should really be the lifeblood of this offense moving forward. I think Miles Sanders is an absolute stud out of the backfield. Look, he fumbled early, but he made up for it. I like that Doug Peterson didn't quit on the run. And so that's kind of my key moving forward. Establish the run early, work on the run, make Carson Wentz's job a little bit easier, make the offensive line feel a little bit more at home. And look, I still think they beat the Bengals next week, but I'm not as convinced as I would have been maybe 24 hours ago. So with that said, make sure you guys sign up for Eagles Extra. You can get that at NJ.com/text. Also, you can subscribe to all of our articles on NJ.com/Eagles. We're looking forward to getting your texts. We're looking forward to seeing you download this podcast wherever podcasts are available. Chris and I have some great content coming for you this week. I'll do my second weekly film breakdown, which we're both looking forward to. That'll come out Tuesday morning. And then obviously we'll cover the week ahead where I think this Bengals game is going to be their official last stop before you look at Tank City on Broad Street. So thank you guys for joining us. For Chris Franklin, I'm Mike Kaye. We'll see you soon.